All right, what's up there, Darius? How you doing, brother?
Good to see you.
All right, all right. Okay, man. I hope those sisters come through because they got powerful stories, man. Jeez. Um, First of all, I want to start with my dedication. I dedicate this truth to my children, your children, and the children to come. I hate white people. Seriously, I do. I know it's not popular to say, but I hate white people. Not people with white skin, but white people. I grew up hating white people. I didn't really know it at the time. Maybe it's because I lived in an environment that wasn't conducive to expressing these types of feelings for fear of retaliation. But as individual incidents happened in my life, subconsciously I began to recognize that white people were not good for me. I was born colored in 1963. You can check my birth certificate. Colored. I was born, as I believe all kids are, with no concept of racism. By the time I was 6 years old, my teachers and the media called me a Negro to my face. By the early 70s, I went from being colored/Negro to hearing that I really was an Afro-American. This characterization was a result of perceived victories in civil rights legislation and moral equity. Power to the people, right? But what has stuck since the mid-1600s, however, is black and nigger. Like me, black people have been searching for identity since Virginia planters stripped us of our cultural identity and relegated a mass of African cultures into a single color-based society while simultaneously declaring themselves and those that shared their pigment white. I'm sure many can relate. There is not a day that's gone by that white people haven't been an influence on my decision-making process. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, but for 2 years I lived in Oakland, California. I attended first and second grades there. I had just begun to see the world outside of my grandfather's church circle. I had also just begun to make friends in kindergarten in Detroit when I found myself 2,300 miles away making new friends at a new school, E. Morris Cox Elementary. Now, one of the cats I met there, Tommy, came off as a real cool dude. We played tetherball, hopscotch, tag, man, you name it. If the game was played on the school playground, we played it. Fun, every day. And he wasn't my only friend. There was another cat named Speedy and this dude named Eric. Now, I remember Eric was a black dude and Speedy was a white cat. The cool thing about Tommy was that he also lived on my way home. He was the first friend whose house I had entered outside of our apartment complex. But Tommy's mother's boyfriend made Tommy stop hanging with me because I was black. I lost my first friend because I was a little black boy. Tommy had no problems with my color, but his adult influencer did. I hate white people. 2 years later, we moved back to Detroit because my stepfather was dying of cancer. And shortly after his death, my mother and I moved into a new house that was on the deeper west side of Detroit. Now, in my neighborhood, most of the kids that I played with were black. There was one family that most would call white. They had a pretty little Indian girl that they adopted, along with a biological daughter and son. The kids played with us sometimes, and they welcomed me into their home. They may have been white and not white people. There were several black families around, at least 8 black families that I played with. This should have been a comfortable existence, but the specter of white influence affected me even here, where it was barely visible. How? Because light was right and next to white. I believe many of these black families tried in earnest to represent what being black was about, but the influence of lesser melanin was king. The lighter your skin, the more beautiful and valuable you were considered. However, the darker your skin, the more unattractive you'd be considered. I was the darkest cat in my neighborhood, and none of them ever let me forget it. Ironically, I never heard it from the white family, but I heard it from my perceived likeness. Shadow, Black Ass, Dot, Nightcrawler were just a few of the debasing monikers based on the color of my skin. Shit, as much as I tried, I couldn't make myself believe that I really was an equal. I rarely ever thought that I was cute as a kid. I didn't even really like black girls. I had crushes on Christy McNichols from Family, Barbara Eaton, you know Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie, Marsha Brady from the Brady Bunch, hell, even Farrah Fawcett from the Charlie's Angels. There was a beautiful black girl down the street from me, Darlene, but I couldn't see that. She liked me, I found out later, but I couldn't see that. See, my tuner was set for brightness. Beauty in my mind was a white life. Hell, school, church, and TV told me so. All I could see was that long straight hair and fair colored skin. This was my idea of beauty. I feel like Uncle Ruckus. My self-esteem was stunted by people who didn't look like me. I hate white people. My mother sent me to an all-boys Catholic school for 7th and 8th grade. In my first year there, I got into a fight because a white boy called me a lucky nigger for being able to go to that school. Now, regularly, I would have shined on this degrading comment and ignored this fool. But I had been fresh off a visit to my Afrocentric dad, and his side of the family didn't take shit from white people. In fact, when they were pissed at something a white person had done, they went from white to crackers. Anyway, it wasn't much of a fight. I said, fuck you, hunky, and slapped him. He rushed me. We wrestled. A Jesuit at the school came over and broke it up. I was suspended for a week. Him for 2 days. I hate white people. The next year, I guess fucking with the black guy was still in vogue. Twice, I came out of the gym to find my clothes in the pisser. My shirt the first time and my shoe the next time. A few days later, one of the guys that I thought had done it walked into the bathroom stall. I hurried and changed and then ran into the bathroom and pulled out my shit and pissed over the stall onto his head. And I heard him scream. Then I realized it wasn't him. And I took off. This mixed kid that ran around with the guys who fucked with me had just become the victim of my revenge. I partially felt for him, but that's what his shade-hating ass got. Yet this Indian guy dined me out. And that's after I paid him $5 not to tell. Now this is the mid-70s, y'all. $5 ain't no chump change for an 8th grade black kid, okay? My mother was called to the school and they told her everything about the pissing and the bribery. My mother drove me home, pulled into the driveway, put the car in park, and then socked me in the jaw, just like Nick Nolte did to Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours. Wow, a beat down by my mom over a white dude. But I still see him now in my memories, pee dripping off his curls. Curls he got from white people. I smile. I hate white people. There have been many other crucial moments in my life when white people have fucked me over. From my court-martial by an all-white forum for coming to the aid of a black friend being beaten up by 2 white guys bigger than him, to the white dude that called me a nigger while I was in the brig serving time for the former and cost me 28 days in the hole, to the white corporal who thought so low of me to continuously poke me in my chest until I put him on the ground, sending me back to the brig. At 17, I originally bought into the idea in boot camp that there was no black and white there. We were light green or dark green Marines, brothers above all others, and in many ways it was. But white people ruined that for me too. I hate white people. I could tell you about the run-ins with the LAPD and the multiple times that I fit the general description. Above all, there was the time that I lay prone as instructed while they stomped my legs and rubbed my face into the cement while some asshole shot uppercuts between my legs trying to hit me in the nuts. Meanwhile, my then 8-year-old daughter watched, and I saw fear on her face as she screamed, "Daddy." And I screamed, "My daughter." And only then did the sheriff move her. But the images are still with both of us to this day. Interactions between the police and black people are an ever-present siren that deadens the ear of society. We've heard it so much that it's exhausting to get angry over it, so it's dismissed as one of those things. You might question my association of police to hating white people. Well, the police, criminal justice system, and white people have done more to hold me captive, to hold me back, and to hold me down than any other group I know. Oppression and suppression by complexion. I hate white people. To those of you that call yourselves white, your ancestors were not members of a white race before the 1600s. Most European immigrants and their descendants took on the race designation of white to enjoy collectively and inherently a freedom not afforded to the African or other peoples of color. In order to escape the threat of an overwhelming populace of the indentured servant / slave workforce, a class of people was created to dictate for all who bore the color that one race was superior to all, white, and another would be committed to servitude for an eternity, black. I hate white people. Get rid of white people and the world can be a better place. Now, this final anecdote took place on campus, San Diego College. With it, I hope you gain a better understanding of my declaration. In 2010, I enrolled at San Diego City College and joined the radio, television, video, and film department. I tutored and mentored for free and have done so since I was there. I love the vocation and enjoy helping the students find their voice and work on the skills they will need to make a career in this field. But an asshole, a white people sort of guy, poisoned my experience. I came in early one morning and found that the edit bays down the hall from the radio station, Jazz 88, had been vandalized and some equipment missing. I reported it to the DJ on duty, who in turn reported it to the head engineer. I was feeling for him. Seriously, I was hella upset because I love using that edit suite. But later in the day, while I was in that suite, I heard voices. I recognized my name, so I listened. James and his son were here last night. They were the last ones here. What the fuck? But before I could get around the corner to say something, a professor in our department vehemently defended me and my son. They weren't here last night. They weren't the last ones here last night. I was. I saw them when they left an hour before I even left, and nothing was missing, and nothing had been vandalized. The engineer continued to try to vilify me and mine. This was a guy I spoke to almost every day. I treated him with respect. I figured he sometimes was just a little grumpy, but I didn't want to attach any racial overtones to his personality, though of course I did suspect. For this guy to point out me and my son as possible suspects in this theft, when I was the one that discovered everything, began to threaten my safety and existence at this school. An investigation gone wrong, and it happens. could have caused me to lose my kids and limit my son's future possibilities. Even if not convicted, arrests are still on your record. Yet someone who has white skin that I don't consider to be white people spoke truth to that foulness. I will always have respect and admiration for that professor for standing up for me and my son. It wasn't a show for me. He didn't know that I was on the other side of the wall. Shout out to Professor Bob Sly for being a righteous person. The point is that this man, the engineer, felt so little of me to throw me and my son under the bus for no other reason than the idea that he could. Now that's some real white people shit. For the next couple of years, I dealt with this cat, Larry Quick, never caving into my desire to blast off on this fool. But as the saying goes, God don't like ugly. Later, that very same engineer was arrested and convicted for stealing cameras and gear from the department's coffers. Equipment turned up in pawn shops all across the county dating back 10 years. And this motherfucker tried to put that on me and my son? Do I need to say it again, y'all? I don't hate white people for the color of their skin. My firstborn son's mother would be considered white, though I never thought of her that way. My brother from another mother, Alex Miller Pastore, by eyesight would fall into this category. Never thought of it in that way. My friends Masashi and Whitebread from the military resemble the description, but I don't consider them white people. Even those kids, Tommy and Speedy, at the time I knew them, they weren't white people to me. No. I hate white people because I went through life unknowingly hating myself while trying not to hate you. As I see it, the term white supremacist is redundant. Identifying as white alone is a declaration of supremacy. Anyone who calls himself white as a race dons the cloak of the privileged oppressor. It's simple. If white people don't believe in inequity based on color, then don't be white. As I reclaim my story, I am certain that my hatred would dissipate if white people would reclaim theirs. Thank you.